Well, hello, everybody, and hello to the empty council chambers. Nobody is here this evening except for our lovely staff, wonderful staff behind us and over to my left. This is the Tuesday regular evening meeting, February 9th. Let's go ahead and call the meeting to order, but before that, we'll have our invocation observed by a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Alrighty, clerk, will you please call the roll?
Bajent,
Here.
Clegg,
Here.
Halliburton,
Here.
Sanchez,
Here.
Thompson,
Here.
Woodings,
Here.
all present.
Thank you. Next up, we have the consent agenda. All items on the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the council and will be enacted by one
Madam
motion.
Mayor?
Oh, did I miss something?
Yes.
Yes. Next up, we have the request for approval of minutes and work session and regular evening minutes from February 2nd.
Madam Mayor, I move approval of the minutes of the City Council work session and regular meeting on February 2nd, 2021. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Thompson,
Yes.
Woodings,
Yes.
Bajent,
Yes.
Clegg,
Yes.
Halliburton,
Yes.
Sanchez,
Yes.
all in favor, motion carries.
And we also have special business next, interim budget changes. Hi, Travis, welcome.
Hi, Mayor. Just real quickly to run through the two IBCs for tonight. First, as you, I think, heard about last week, the city's receiving $11.5 million federal fund to help with emergency rental assistance. This IBC that's coming through tonight is to authorize the expenditure of those funds, which will be done in partnership with the Boise City Housing Authority and Ada County. The second IBC is for Public Works is moving money between projects at their Lander Street facility. So as part of the 21 budget, council approved $1.5 million for a secondary capacity project. 1.3 million of those funds are being reprioritized to the Lander Street Program Management Project, which will just kind of help set the overall goals and objectives for implementing the water renewal plan that was adopted last fall. So the department thought it was best to prioritize that before the secondary capacity project, which would probably go back on the calendar for 22. And those were just the only two IBCs there are. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
It looks as though there are not.
Madam Mayor, I move approval of the interim budget changes as presented. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Just before that, Travis, thanks for joining us tonight and being here for questions if we had them. Appreciate it.
Oh, no problem. Thank you,
Madam
Mayor.
Mayor,
Yes.
although I had no questions, just a comment. We did pass the resolution last week for this rental assistance. We're going to amend that and pass it again, or it's on the agenda again. This is such an important program, and I just wanted to note how great it is to have the partnership with the Boise City Ada County Housing Authority to manage the program. They have staff already well versed in this and already well situated to manage it. So really, really happy to have this on the agenda tonight.
Councilmember Thompson, are you wanting to say something? You're unmuted. So nope. Okay. All right. Anyone else? All right, clerk, will you please call the roll?
Thompson,
Yes.
Woodings,
Yes.
Bajent,
Yes.
Clegg,
Yes.
Halliburton,
Yes.
Sanchez,
Yes.
all in favor, motion carries.
All right, next up, we have ordinances. There's nothing on first or second reading.
Madam
but
Mayor?
Oh, did I move on again?
Yes, it's the consent agenda.
It's because I'm reading the agenda in advance. I'm messing this up. I need my computer version. What?
No.
No, okay. We're on the consent agenda.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All items with an asterisk are considered to be routine by the council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion on these items unless a council member, wait, we already did this. I don't know what is happening this evening. We have a motion and a second on the floor.
No, we do not.
Oh, Lisa made a motion, I thought.
That
Yep.
was for the interim budget
Okay.
changes. Madam Mayor.
Unless the citizen so requests, in which case the item will be removed from the general order of business and considered in its normal sequence.
Madam Mayor, I move approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. So Council President, your comments were related to the IBC, but also the resolution on the consent agenda?
Yes.
Okay. And with that, I imagine there are no other comments. So Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Thompson,
Yes.
Woodings,
Yes.
Agent,
Yes.
Clegg,
Yes.
Halliburton,
Yes.
Sanchez.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
All right, here we are. There are no first and second reading ordinances, but we do have a third reading ordinance, ordinance 321.
Madam Mayor, I move that further reading of ordinance 321 be dispensed with and the record reflect it has been read the third time in full.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Council President,
It's generally a unanimous consent, but it's fine to be a motion.
okay. Will you call the roll?
For the third reading?
Yep.
Thompson,
Yes.
Woodings,
Yes.
Agent,
Yes.
Clegg,
Yes.
Halliburton,
Yes.
Sanchez.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries. ORD-3-21, an ordinance amending the Boise City Development Code, Boise City Code Title 11, Chapter 6, Section 3, to add a subsection 4 to provide additional bonuses for diverse and affordable housing, an increase of maximum allowable development on a property, approving a summary of the ordinance and providing an effective date.
Madam Mayor, I move that ordinance 321 be approved.
Second.
A motion, a second. Do we have discussion? Really? No way. All right, I'm going to say a couple things. I just want to thank staff, first of all, for the work done on this. You know, we did have a hearing. We've read this twice. But this is a tool that that I know affordable housing developers are looking forward to using, and we're going to learn from it as we experience either the impact or lack of impact that it has, because we want to see what works, try as many things as we can to address the affordable housing needs in our community. And so really appreciate the work with many of the council members, most all of you, as well as the public that engaged in this process. I think your mic's off. Okay.
Thompson,
Yes.
Woodings,
Yes.
Agent,
Yes.
Clegg,
Yes.
Halliburton,
Yes.
Sanchez.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
And next up, item D, an ordinance for first, second, and third reading.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Thank you. I move that all rules of the council interfering with the immediate consideration of ORD 421 be suspended, and that the portions of Idaho Code Section 50-902 requiring an ordinance to be read on 3 different days, twice by title and once in full, be dispensed with, that the council hold the first, second, and third readings tonight, and that the records show that ORD 421 has been read for the third time in full.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Thompson,
Yes.
Woodings,
Yes.
Agent,
Yes.
Clegg,
Yes.
Halliburton,
Yes.
Sanchez.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries. ORD-4-21, an ordinance amending Boise City Code Title 7, Chapter 3, Article A, Section 2, camping in public places, to add a definition for available overnight shelter as subsection B2, to strike certain language in subsections A and B, to add police procedure regarding enforcement as subsection B3, amending Boise City Code Title 5, Chapter 2, Section 3, disorderly conduct, to add a definition of available overnight shelter as subsection B2, to add police procedure regarding enforcement as subsection B3, providing for a waiver of the reading rules and providing an effective date.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, go
I
ahead.
move that ORD 421 be approved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion?
Madam Mayor, first of all, thank you, Councilmember Sanchez, for allowing me to make this motion. I am the only council member who's been here from the beginning of this. In fact, my very second meeting, we had a presentation by the folks who ran the shelter at that point, and quickly learned that we were going to have to inject ourselves into the process so that the shelter didn't fail. We did that. We got a new shelter up and running. All during that time, the prior administration and this administration has worked tirelessly to provide good solutions for our citizens who are experiencing homelessness. Among those solutions were a commitment to not allow dangerous encampments, but to ensure that we protected the rights of those citizens. I believe that the agreement reached on this long and winding lawsuit meets that criteria. We can still protect the rights of those citizens and still ensure that we don't end up with dangerous encampments. And at the same time, it allows us in a very good way, a very exciting, positive way, to turn our attention again to solutions. We do have persons experiencing homelessness in our city, and they do need some support and some help. And I think there are more solutions to be had than some of the ones that we've been able to implement to date. We certainly have a great plan in our continuum of care. And I look forward, now that this agreement has been reached, to turning my attention to that and hope that the citizens of this city will be with us as we do so. Thank you.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
thank you. I just want to echo everything that Council President Clegg has said. Also noting that, this has been a very long road. And this ordinance really is enacting in policy the practices that were put in place for the humane enforcement of camping in our city. What we know about encampments is that they're not only dangerous for the community at large, but they're incredibly dangerous for citizens who are experiencing homelessness. I have a cousin who ended up in prison because she was part of an encampment in a different city. And so I've seen firsthand how they can really negatively impact the folks that are living in them. So I really think that this is a wonderful thing for our city. We can turn to solutions, and we can really focus our work now on providing supportive housing, providing housing first, which has been shown to be the most effective in helping folks who are experiencing homelessness in communities. So I'm really looking forward to taking next steps and having this in place to protect all of our citizens.
Madam Mayor.
Go ahead.
Thank you so much, Council President Clegg. I know that this has been a very painful piece of work for the former administration and this current one. I happened to mention to our admin, Amanda Brown, earlier today that sometimes we have those days that everything just seems to be humming, and you know that the sacrifices that you've made to be in this position where we get to help our community be better than it was yesterday. And today was one of those days for me. I had 3 meetings in a row, and all we talked about was housing. The first meeting was the interview with the Harvard Bloomberg group that's doing the innovative work to address the issue of affordable housing and helping us in Boise come to some solutions to address that issue. And I went right from that meeting to chatting with Maureen Brewer to discuss issues related to homelessness and affordable housing. And then right after that, I spoke to a tenant, a constituent who was talking about ideas for how do we curb the rising rents in our city. And all of that felt so wonderful because people don't always get to see the work as it's actually happening. It's meetings, it's people coming to the table. It's a constituent being very brave and reaching out to us, offering potential solutions. And this was a day like that. And so I love that this is how I get to end my day, is bringing forward a tool to help address the needs of our citizens, but to bring some heart to it, and remind people that we are in fact people who care about all of our citizens, and that your lack of housing, your lack of money, doesn't mean that we care less for you. In fact, there are people working behind the scenes every single day, worrying about you and thinking about you and your needs. And this is just another tool for us to do that better.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, council member.
this has indeed been a long road, and I just want to clarify for people who are trying to track along, none of what we're doing here changes what we've been doing. This codifies and reflects the existing policies that have been in place in the city of Boise for quite some time. And so, what we're doing here is making our ordinances comply with the things that we have actually been doing. And that's just a very good thing. And I think it reflects well on us as a city, and frankly, well on you, Madam Mayor, as a leader of this current administration.
All right, well, it looks like I'm going to jump in just to close us off. I hope that it's clear to the community that this council, this administration, the city, all of us together are so focused on moving forward. We are closing this legacy case in a way that recognizes the solutions related to Housing First, getting people connected with services they might need, with the long-term goal of getting them into a home, is first and foremost in the minds of all of us as we work through these really tough policy decisions moving forward. And this settlement allows us to make investments in those solutions that we all know will impact the needs of those living without a home in our community, and really look forward to working with each of you on the council. Especially, as President Clegg said, she's been here since the beginning, that history. Councilmember Woodings, you've been involved as well. I just want to thank each of you for what you've brought, your engagement as part of the settlement, but then most importantly, signal that we are ready to make these investments in a way that gets to the long-term best solution, which is Housing First, and look forward to that work. So thank you all.
Thompson,
Yes.
Woodings,
Yes.
Bagent,
Yes.
Clegg,
Yes.
Halliburton,
Yes.
Sanchez.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Thank you. Now, if I kept up with the mode that I was in earlier where I was skipping everything, I think I'd try to adjourn us at this point, but we've got a whole bunch of new business to deal with. So first off, we have under new business A, purchasing brief. And I don't see on here, Colin. Hi, Colin. Nice to see you.
Hello there.
Okay, great. We can hear you. Welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor, Council Member. My name is Colin Miller, and I'm the purchasing manager for the city. On your agenda tonight, we have two purchasing briefs. The purchasing brief process is used when a project would be awarded to a vendor outside of our metropolitan impact area, and a local vendor submitted a bid. In these cases, only City Council may make the award. The first project on the agenda is FB 21-163 high-pressure air compressors. The low bid from Geotech, and in third place is a local vendor, Rogers Machinery. Before you make the award decision, we have Glenn Schwinske from Public Works. He's available for any technical questions, and I can
Colin.
answer any process questions.
Colin. Hi,
Yes?
sorry to interrupt. At least in the council chambers, for some of us, it's hard to fully hear you. There's a little bit of a, I don't know if it's just big room echo. It sounds kind of like that fishbowl noise. So I'm perfect. Let's try that. I don't know if it's how it is for folks on Zoom, but I know people here are struggling.
Okay, how's that?
It's a
Is that any
little
better,
better.
Madam Mayor?
I think. Let's try it.
I'll
Did you
try
ask
one
if
more
we had,
time.
if we had questions, or were you still?
Yes, I asked if there's any questions. And Glenn Schwinke from Public Works, or I can answer any process questions. Madam Mayor, did that help the audio, please?
A little bit. How's are people on Zoom? Can you just nod yes if you're hearing okay? Okay, great. Colin, it's just us, so don't worry about us. Everybody's good.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions?
So I hear no questions on that. If that's correct, then we would ask for you to make an award decision tonight, please.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I have reviewed the brief and the purchasing documents provided for us on this bid, and recognizing that we do have a proposer who's relatively local, but whose purchasing bid is considerably more than the low bidder, I would move that we award the purchase of FB 21-163 to Geotech Environmental Equipment out of Denver, Colorado.
Second.
We have a motion second. Is there discussion?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I just want to say I fully agree with Council President Clegg, and I really appreciate that we have this local preference. I know it went into effect just before I took office for the first time, and it's been effective and useful, but I do believe that the difference in the cost here is great enough that we stick with the highly qualified lower bid. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Clerk, will you call the roll?
Thompson,
Yes.
Woodings,
Yes.
Agent,
Yes.
Clegg,
Yes.
Halliburton,
Yes.
Sanchez.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Thank you. The second project this evening is RFP 21-032, Fire Station Architectural Services, where Rice Burgess Miller is the top ranked proposer, and tied for second place is Cole Architects and also Hummel Architects. Sean Wilson is a project manager on this. He can answer any technical questions. And again, I'm available for process. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I do have a question on this. I think it's probably for Sean.
Sure, go ahead.
As I reviewed these documents, and this is for the fire station in Northwest, the proposer who got the highest marks was ranked highest on their scores for their design approach. But as I looked and questioned about what that meant, learned that it was about their ability to design for environmental purposes and not necessarily the aesthetic design. And while I don't necessarily disagree with their decision, I'd like to understand how we will approach various neighborhoods who have different design ethics, and an upcoming station which has some historic significance, and ensuring that as we look at these purchasing briefs and look at the proposers, that we're considering the factors that might play into how we'll want to proceed with these particular projects. In this case, the aesthetic design being able to match the neighborhood and not be one that is the design that they prefer.
Madam Mayor, council members, can you hear me okay, Elaine? Okay. For this particular RFP, we did not specifically call out aesthetics as part of the design approach. A lot of it was sustainability, and the design approach is a lot of times more of that project management logistics approach, the different steps that happen in design. I think, it kind of looking back at how we set the criteria for this particular station, the siting study was still in progress, so that I think that forward thought to what you're saying, Elaine, hadn't been integrated into the RFP. But moving forward, I think there's a lot of opportunities, and I think we do it with some of the other fire stations. I can think of number 9, where we spent a lot of time with the public and with staff and mayor and council, making sure it was architecturally appropriate for the specific location. So I think it'll be more of a, from a project management perspective, just my responsibility to make sure that happens before, we actually start building anything.
Thank you, Sean. I appreciate that.
Madam Mayor.
Yes, go ahead.
Sean, one of the things noted in the memo was the partnership with Rice Fergus and a local architecture firm, Pivot North. Can you describe to us a little bit more how that type of partnership works?
Yeah, and it's very similar to the next 2 proposers, which is Cole and Hummel. Typically how the firms operate is we get a national expert and they team with a local expert. And the national expert, because of their kind of vast experience with fire stations, they really help us see through the concept development, that early on work. So usually works where they're heavily involved with the concept and then kind of schematic design. And as soon as everything gets more baked, then the local firm takes over as the production firm and kind of manages the construction more actively and all of that. So that's typically the relationship we have on the fire stations and what we've had on past fire stations we've built.
Madam Mayor, that brought up another question. Sean, would there be a similar situation with one of the local firms to that? Can you give a little bit more detail there?
Madam Mayor, council members, I'm hoping I answer your question, Councilmember Woodings. If there was a local firm in the lead, would it change? Was that the question?
No, would a local firm also partner with another firm to
Madam Mayor,
the project?
Yep, that's typically how it works. Cole, the next proposer, teamed with TCA, which is an expert out of Seattle. And then Hummel teamed with BRW, which is an expert out of Houston. And the last lowest ranked proposer was CGA, and they didn't team with anybody. And I will also add that in addition to the architects that work on it, in this case with the highest proposer, a lot of the other team is local as well. So they have a local civil, local structural, local landscape architect, local mechanical, electrical, and plumbing engineer. And so the bulk of the production is local parts of the team.
Thank you, Sean. That's really helpful. It seems like all things considered, these proposals are actually pretty more similar than they might seem on paper. So that's really helpful to me. Thank you.
Thanks.
Madam Mayor, it
Yes.
appears that there are no other questions. And with that, I would go ahead and make a motion. I move that the city award RFP 21-032 for fire station architectural services to Rice Fergus Miller, who was both the highest scorer and, although they're not a national firm, has significant or not a local firm, has significant local experience on their team.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Anything else before we vote? No, okay, go ahead.
Thompson,
Yes.
Woodings,
Yes.
Agent,
Yes.
Clegg,
Yes,
Halliburton,
Yes.
Sanchez.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good to see you. Good night. Okay, we move into subdivisions now, and we have one subdivision tonight, is SUB 20-54. We have Cody to present for staff. It looks like we will have the applicant available, but no neighborhood association or member of the public has signed up to testify. So if you are on this Zoom call to testify for this item, just raise your hand and we'll call you afterwards. But with that, we'll start with Cody.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council. Can everyone see my screen and hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay. This first item is a request for approval of a preliminary and final plat for a 4-lot subdivision on just under 1 acre, addressed at 12241 West Ginger Creek Drive. For those unfamiliar with the area, this is on the west side of Cloverdale Road, about halfway between Ustick and McMillan. The property is zoned R1B, or single-family residential, that allows a density of just under 5 units per acre. The project itself includes 4 buildable lots, all that will be accessed from a common drive off Ginger Creek. Each of those lots will be occupied by a detached single-family home that includes 3 new homes, and then the retention of the existing dwelling on the corner lot. A 7-foot attached sidewalk was very recently installed or completed along Cloverdale. The applicant is proposing to extend that attached sidewalk as a 5-foot walkway around the corner along Ginger Creek. As far as trees, there are about 7 existing trees that are actually in poor health and will be removed. While mitigation is not required given their condition, the applicant is proposing to install at least 12 new Class 2 trees. That would be a significant improvement compared to existing conditions. I think, as you saw on the record, there was some testimony of the commission who heard this item back in December. I wouldn't categorize it as opposition to redevelopment of the site. Rather, there was some concern with the size of the lots as it relates to the homes to the west, more internal to the neighborhood. The project was heard in conjunction with plan unit development that night. That included reduced lot sizes and some internal setbacks, but the project approval did not include any variances, and all perimeter setbacks are met. I'd also note that the project is under the density limits of the existing zoning. The decision on the plan unit development was not appealed, and so it is just the subdivision that's before you this evening. There was also some back and forth with the applicant on the requirement to extend water to the site. They had initially requested a waiver from that requirement, to which we were opposed from a staff perspective. I won't go into all the details, but we have worked that out, and their plans are to make that connection. There was a slight modification to the plat to place the new water line in the easement. In terms of the opposition to the project, we acknowledge those concerns. These lots are certainly somewhat smaller than those to the west, but from our perspective, and as you saw from the commissions, it makes some sense for a bit of a transition here. It is a site that's on the edge of that neighborhood on a corner lot that does abut an arterial roadway. With only one driveway access to Ginger Creek, and the way it's arranged, it fits quite nicely on the site. And again, it does not exceed the density limits already allowed in the zone. So with that, we are recommending approval of the project this evening. And again, it is only the subdivision that's before you. Thank you.
Any questions for Cody? Nope. All right, with that, let's go ahead and move to the applicant. Are you with us?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Cody. You did a very nice job. Thank you for the subdivision for Via Moa Estate tonight. So yeah, I'm here to represent to you, Madam Mayor and Council Member, to ask for your approval for the Via Moa Estate subdivision for building 3 new single-family homes with keeping the existing home at the corner of Ginger Creek and Cloverdale. And as Cody described everything, we went to, we satisfied all the requirements, all the setback, and meet all the requirements for the zoning. So if you have any question, I'm here happy to answer any question. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. It doesn't look as if there are questions right now, so thank you. With that, I'll see if anybody has said they wish to speak.
No, Madam Mayor.
All right. Well, given that there were no questions for staff or the applicant, there's nobody here to testify, I'll go ahead and close the hearing and ask for a motion.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I would move approval of SUB 20-54 Via Amor Estates, TN Ha Enterprise, 12242 West Ginger Creek Drive.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Clerk, will you call the roll?
Thompson,
Yes.
Woodings,
Yes.
Agent,
Yes.
Clegg,
Yes.
Halliburton,
Yes.
Sanchez.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Thank you, Shar. All right, we'll move into the public hearing section of the evening. So first up, we have CAR 20-12. Again, welcome back, Cody. We've got Cody for staff, Wendy Clark as the applicant, and we have no neighborhood association signed up to testify and no member of the public signed up to testify. So again, if you're here on Zoom, you want to talk, raise your little hand, we'll call you, but we'll first start with staff and then the applicant.
Thank
Cody?
you, Madam Mayor, members of council. This item is a request for approval of a rezone and preliminary project associated with a project that includes 12 buildable lots. The property is addressed at 921 North Shamrock Street, which is about a half-mile south of Fairview Avenue and about halfway between Cloverdale and 5 Mile Road in West Boise. The rezone is a request to change the zoning of the 1.6 acre site from R1A to R1C. These are both single-family residential zones. One that the R1A that allows about 2 units per acre, and the R1C that allows 8. The R1A zoning is really a remnant, as you can see in the neighborhood, and it's a large lot zone, really more prevalent with primarily with outlying areas of the community. As you can see from the land use map, the area is designated compact on the land use map, and R1C is actually the predominant zone already existing in the neighborhood. With the R1C zoning, the applicant is proposing a subdivision, again, for 12 detached single-family homes. That does include the existing home that will be retained along Shamrock. In terms of connectivity, Nicole Avenue, a public street, will be extended and stubbed to the south. 3 homes will be accessed from that street, and then a private street to the east provides access to 7 additional homes. Finally, the last 2 lots will share a driveway from Shamrock Avenue that serves 1 new home and the existing dwelling. The applicant is proposing to extend attached sidewalk along Nicole and then install an attached sidewalk leading to a micropath that will connect the project back out to Shamrock. Shamrock itself right here is quite narrow. It will be widened and sidewalk added as it abuts the site. And then finally, the landscape plan indicates that existing trees on the site, which are around that existing home, will be retained. This arrangement was all approved as part of a plan unit development by the Planning Commission in November. In addition to approving the plan unit development, the commission did recommend approval of both the rezone and subdivision. Those decisions, the decision on the plan unit development was not appealed, so it is only the rezone and subdivision before you this evening. As you probably saw in the record, there was one individual that provided comments on the project. Those were provided in writing to the commission, and they didn't oppose the density, rather had suggestions on an alternative design arrangement. We certainly recognize there might be alternative arrangements, but the one proposed this evening does meet the objective standards of the development code, and as indicated in your packet, is supported by the policy guidance of the comprehensive plan. So with that, we are recommending approval of the subdivision and rezone this evening. Thank you.
Cody, I have a question, Madam Mayor.
Go ahead, Council President, go ahead.
Thank you. Shamrock, this end of Shamrock is the very end of the Shamrock Bikeway. And because it was so near Executive Drive and there's just a little pathway connecting at the very end of Shamrock to Executive. There wasn't much done on this section of Shamrock in terms of bikeway. Of course, the traffic on it is relatively low, and so being able to ride as a shared use street works relatively well. But my question is, as this application went through, did ACHD, and this may be a question for Ryan, I don't know, did ACHD look at the improvements on Shamrock south of Fairview for the Shamrock Bikeway and make any recommendations or make any plans themselves to do anything more on that roadway?
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Clegg, I'm not sure if there were, and Ryan is here, I'd probably defer to him on that. I know they had specific requirements as it abuts the site, but in terms of the, the larger segment of Shamrock, I would defer to Ryan for that.
Thank
Yeah, and I
you.
see Ryan. Ryan, if you'd like to answer, go ahead. Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Councilmember Clegg. I'm not aware of any additional discussions. What we do have there is a multi-use path that was built. Ultimately, it probably is one of the lower stress options that we could have there because cars are not allowed on that section. So that's part of the reason it's so narrow in that section. So I'm not aware of any additional planned improvements to the bikeway at this time.
Okay, thank you. I raise it, I appreciate it, Ryan. I raise it now because if we indeed get a little bit more development here, it might be worth a review from here to Fairview and see if there's any other improvements that ought to be made to ensure that the bikeway is safe and gets all the way through.
That makes sense.
Thank you.
All right, it looks like that's it for now. So we will go ahead and hear from the applicant. Do we have Wendy Clark with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Hi there.
How's it
I
going?
can't see you, but we can hear you.
Oh, good. At least we have that. I'm not sure how to use, I'm not a big Zoomer, believe it or not.
That's okay. We can hear you. Just go right ahead.
Okay, first, I would like to just say that I'm pretty excited about bringing this project today, given how housing centric this meeting has been. This represents another partnership between LEAP Charities and my company Dark Horse to bring affordable housing to this area. So it's a big move for us. It's our second project, and it just makes it that much more likely that we can do more together in the future. I know that, and this is probably the more important factor, you guys have had a couple of brutal meetings. Cody did a great job. I agree with everything. I don't really have any disagreement with what has been presented so far. So I think in the interest of time, I'll just make myself available for questions. If you want me to talk about that bike path, that our portion of that, what we can contribute, or really any other aspect of the project, I'm here to answer questions.
Wendy, thank you. I really appreciate it. And I don't know if you can see us or not, but I saw.
I can.
Oh, good, because several council members were nodding in agreement as you talked about how happy you were to bring this proposal, particularly tonight as we're talking about housing. And it is great to see a project between the two of you. I know that it looked like Council President Clegg also was nodding her head that yes, she'd like to hear a little bit about the bike lane or bike pathway if you'd be willing.
Yeah, this particular area, it seems like it connects to that neighborhood, Nicole, and it made sense to me as more houses develop. And obviously, I happen to know, just honestly, I was approached by the owner to the south that they're getting ready to sell, and then the parcel to the south of him is getting ready to sell. So there are more houses coming in that area, and it made sense to me that rather as traffic increases, we need to maybe divert some of that bike traffic off of the streets. So one of the things that we integrated was along the south side of that little private drive that you see there. We have a bike path that runs a 5-foot bike path, or I'm sorry, 7-foot bike path with 5-foot landscape buffer on either side. We'll run the length of that going to the south of that existing house and then tying into that Shamrock bike path plan that ACHD has.
Thank you, Wendy. Madam Mayor, if I could.
Of course.
I don't know if you're aware, but the bikeway on Shamrock goes all the way to HP to the north, about 4 miles. And to the south of you, it of course connects into the industrial area that frankly has quite a few jobs. So there is a real opportunity as this further develops to ensure that folks have opportunity to get to jobs both north and south without using a car if they don't want to. So glad that you're now aware of that. And I think your little, gosh, it's not more than a 50, 70 foot section on Shamrock probably isn't a big deal today, but going forward, we should be aware of it.
And I'm going to try to get my hands on those properties to the south in reference to what you were saying about ACHD and some of the improvements along Shamrock. I did have just a few discussions, and it's sounding to me like what they'll probably recommend, given the complications of that ditch that's across the way and tiling that and losing so many of those trees. If we were to widen that area, it's got those gorgeous trees running up that road. I think their intent, at least at this point, is to develop using Nicole as a diverter up to the northern part of Shamrock. And then they'll maintain fire access to the south, which obviously bodes well for bike traffic as well, because you can just use that fire access, you know, to get to the bike path system.
Oh, that'd be great. Yes, I've been wondering about those trees myself because there's a nice group of them there. Thank you. And by the way, I'm also very excited about your partnership and the kind of housing that you're going to be bringing in this project.
And there's more housing being developed all the time. I know that Indie Dwell is making great strides. Hayden Homes is doing more now than they ever have before and trying to create affordable plans. It's really kind of everybody's concerned about affordability. So.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor.
Yes, go ahead.
Wendy, no questions, just quick comment. Thank you for seeing the investment in doing something really well done with a bike path there. And then also for your partnership with Leap Charities. It's great to see developments like this pop up and be so well thought out. And I also appreciate Council President Clegg's questions about, the future of that bikeway, because there is some potential with development to the south to continue to really make that a great network. So thank you for really looking at this as a long-term investment.
Madam Mayor.
Yes, go ahead.
Hi, Wendy. Thank you so much for bringing this our way. I am a total nerd about houses. And so I have some questions about the Indie Dwell product that you're planning to use, if you're willing to answer them.
I may not be the best because I know that it's still being worked on, but I'll do my best.
Okay. So we see the general, the floor dimensions of these dwellings. Are they intended to be 2-story dwellings?
Yes, I believe so. At the very least, I think the ones that come off that private drive are 2-story because it leaves room for the garage.
Excellent. And how about the duplex also?
That is actually going to be single family because that one additional unit exceeded the density.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Well, I think that's really exciting. Thank you for taking the time and doing everything that I know that it takes to make these kinds of partnerships and working with Leap Charities and working with Indie Dwell. I'm really looking forward to this neighborhood and being able to see it all built out.
Thank you.
If you can give us tours,
I'll talk to Bart. I'm sure it can be arranged.
Thank you.
All righty. Wendy, thanks. Before, I want to make sure that nobody has signed up to testify.
No, Madam Mayor.
All right, there's still nobody here. So with that, unless I'm saying that there are further questions for staff or the applicant, you can say yes or no, whichever way. Nope. All right, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing and the matters properly before us.
Madam Mayor, I move approval of CAR 20-12 Dark Horse Associates LLC, 921 North Shamrock, rezone of 1.62 acres from R1A to R1C.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion and several seconds. Any comments before we take a vote?
Madam Mayor,
Yes, go ahead.
I'll just make a quick comment. Infill developments like this, I think, really are a huge piece of the solution to our housing puzzle in Boise. They provide a bit of density, but still a single family product that's intended for ownership. And I really think that that's missing in a lot of the conversations that we have around around affordable housing. And so I really commend all these partners for coming together to bring this into our city.
Madam Mayor.
Yes, go ahead.
I agree with Councilmember Woodings. I myself, when I was a homeowner, was able to purchase a home only because a smaller housing product was available. And in this day and age where we're trying to have a smaller footprint, trying to take up less space so that more of us can fit, and so more of us can have access to new construction, I think it's a wonderful product. And I too would like to tour it like Councilmember Wooding suggested. So excited for this.
Madam Mayor.
Yes.
Thank you. Real quickly, in addition to everything that's already been said, this also meets goals in Blueprint Boise that have been hard to meet in this kind of neighborhood. Single family housing can still be a different housing type when it's done differently than the other single family housing around it. And that's exactly what this does. That kind of development brings different opportunities to every neighborhood. In addition, this one is very near both a employment center and also an activities center. So it's really the perfect place for this.
All right. Thank you all. With that, I think we're ready for a vote.
Thompson. Okay. Woodings.
Yes.
Yes. Bajent.
Yes.
Clegg.
Yes.
Halliburton.
Yes.
Sanchez.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Madam Mayor, I move approval of SUB 20-45 Lucky Lane subdivision, Dark Horse Associates LLC, 921 North Shamrock Street, preliminary plat.
Second.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and second. Clerk, will you call the roll?
Thompson. Okay.
TJ, I think we got you. You're saying yes, but we can't hear you.
Woodings.
Yes.
Bajent.
Yes.
Clegg.
Yes.
Halliburton.
Yes.
Sanchez.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Thanks for joining us, Wendy. Have a good night. Okay, next up, CAR 20-18. Again, we have Cody, welcome back, and then the applicant, Mr. Lopez. Looks like Fred Fridgman might be here from CENA. Nobody's signed up from the public, but again, if you're here, raise your hand and we'll call on you. And with that, we'll have Cody kick us off.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council. This is a request to rezone 6 acres located at 2171 East Danzy Street from A1 or open land to M1D DA or light industrial with design review and a development agreement. For those unfamiliar with the area, like I was from the name of the street, it's just northwest of the Simplot Sports Complex off Federal Way. The commission heard this item back in December where it was unopposed, and they did unanimously recommend approval of the request. As you can see, the property is designated industrial on the land use map, and the requested industrial zoning is consistent with that designation. However, the site is somewhat uniquely situated between the industrial corridor there along Federal Way and the residential neighborhood to the east. Some of the more intense industrial uses, or actually a lot of them, could create quite a few conflicts with that residential neighborhood. Because of this, the applicant did include a development agreement. That agreement limits the use of the property to only a storage facility. These facilities generally have coexisted fairly well with residential neighborhoods. Compared to some of the other uses, and certainly industrial uses, they generate little traffic and noise. And with the limit to the single use, as you saw in your packet, the commission did unanimously recommend approval of this request. I would note that the applicant will still be required to go through design review. That will allow us to ensure that appropriate screening and landscaping is provided. Again, that's especially important along that eastern property line where the project does abut those residential uses. So with that, we remain unaware of opposition to the request, and we are recommending approval this evening. Thank you.
Madam Mayor.
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, Cody, quick question. I also had a hard time finding this one. It didn't appear on Google Maps when I was looking for it earlier. So from what I saw in the memo, and then it looks like the drawing, this would be, people would enter this from the east. And are they entering it through the neighborhood at the end of a cul-de-sac? Is that the only way in and out of this facility?
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Halliburton, that's correct. That's the only way in and out of here. This site it's really isolated where the industrial development along Federal Way has already been developed. So it is only through the end of that residential street to get to the facility.
And then just a quick follow-up, Madam Mayor.
Of course.
Yeah, along those same lines, Cody, there's from the west, because that is developed, there are no other streets going through, or even the possibility of going through. So that'd be the only way that people would be able to access it, would be through the neighborhood. And if that's the case, are there any issues with the development of that neighborhood and the idea that that would be the access point would be through that development?
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Halliburton, yeah, the fact that it's only accessed through the residential neighborhood is probably one of the biggest, concerns or considerations in developing this site, especially with that industrial land use designation. I think with that, because of the low volume of traffic that storage creates, it probably is about one of the better uses you could envision on this site. There's also an Idaho power corridor that goes over the top of much of this, so further residential use here wouldn't really work. So it's quite limited.
Madam Mayor.
Yes.
Thank you. Cody, my memory is that when we approved thank you, and leave this up, the residential subdivision to the east of this, there is a pathway that comes off the end of that last cul-de-sac and then heads north along the edge of this property. I can't remember what that pathway connects to, and wondered if the development of this property, if there was any consideration to look to see if the development of this property offered any extension of that pathway, or if that's necessary.
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Clegg, this development itself would be an enclosed facility. So I'm not sure in terms of connection, that's largely an Idaho power corridor there to the north. I believe the applicant in this case was responsible or still developing that residential property, so they may be able to answer that question a little bit better.
Okay, great, thank you.
It looks like right now we are good to move forward. Mr. Lopez, are you here?
Madam Mayor, I do have Heath Clark with his hand raised. So
Oh, great. Okay, Heath, are you representing the applicant?
He should be joining us shortly.
Hi there.
Madam Mayor, hi, nice to see everyone. Yes, I am representing the applicant, so I'll take a quick stab at this. So Heath Clark, 251 East Front Street in Boise. In terms of the overall application, we've appreciated David's work on this. We are in agreement with the terms and conditions of the staff report, so I'm not going to belabor any of those details, and I'll just jump into the questions that have been raised. With regard to Councilmember Halliburton's questions, I think Cody really hit the nail on the head there. This is really the last parcel in that area that can develop, and this will go to Councilmember Clegg's question as well. The parcel north of us is Idaho Power owned, so that's not going to develop. This is a buffer piece that sits between the residential and the industrial, and it would allow for what we believe is an appropriate transition between those uses. And the applicant has offered up what I think is a pretty generous development agreement limitation that we can only do one use. I don't know that I've ever done a development agreement that says you can only do one use on the property. So as Cody mentioned, it is a very low traffic use. And so it's going to use that neighborhood access, but we don't expect that would be disruptive to the neighborhood, and ACHD also didn't have any concerns with that. With regard to Councilmember Clegg's question, the pathway that I think you have in mind is actually on the southeast side of Moxie Ridge. So on the other side of the residential development, and there is a pathway there to connect down to Columbia Village. So that's been satisfied and taken care of on the residential side of things. With that, I think I'd be happy to stand for any further questions, but I hope that addresses the two that were on the table.
Madam Mayor.
Yes.
Thank you, Heath. I couldn't remember, and I tried to find the old application to see where that went, and so I appreciate that. I just thought I'd raise it because I wanted to ensure that we weren't missing an opportunity.
Yeah, and it is the same development group. So, we're happy, we're going to make sure that that's coordinated, but that is part of the residential project.
Great, thank you.
All right. Anything else for the applicant? Okay, Heath will be back.
Okay.
Thanks for joining us. Fred Fritchman is.
No,
Nope.
Madam Mayor.
Anybody raising their hand for Sina? Anybody on for Sina?
No, Madam Mayor.
Okay. So there's not a neighborhood association this evening. Is there anyone signed up to testify? Or not signed up, but raising their hands?
No, Madam Mayor.
All right, nobody is here to testify on this item. So before we close, I just want to make sure, does anybody on the council have any further questions or clarification from Cody or Mr. Clark?
Madam Mayor.
Yes.
A question for Mr. Clark. It is odd that the development agreement limits it to one use. And I understand what we're aiming for here, which is a comfortable transition between the residential and the industrial uses. My preliminary thinking is I wouldn't be opposed to a slightly more flexible development agreement than that, while still recognizing what we're trying to hit. I don't know what any of my colleagues think, and it may be up for discussion, but I just wanted to get a feel from you how comfortable you really are with that, or how comfortable your client really is with that. And if you're really confident, like, no, this is totally fine, then I'll drop it. But I'm certainly willing to push and advocate later for making the development agreement a little bit more flexible in that way. If just to share.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, Council Member Bajan, I appreciate that. The choice of self-storage was done very deliberately, and it was done to make sure that really to ensure the long-term success of the residential neighborhood to the east. So the applicant is comfortable with that concession. It wasn't something that was extracted out of them with their arm behind their back, staff running them against the wall or anything like that. This was something that they felt very, very comfortable with. And so, I appreciate the comments, and, if things were to turn, what I would suggest is that we would come back for a development agreement modification and maybe just remind everybody of this conversation. But For now, I think we'd be happy staying as is.
Okay, thank you.
All right, if there's nothing further, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Thanks all for joining us. And with that, the matter is before the council.
Madam Mayor, with that question, I will go ahead and move approval of CAR 20-18 Flex Space LLC 2171 East Danzy Drive rezone 6.25 acres from A1 to M1D DA.
Second.
We have a motion, a second, any discussion?
Madam Mayor, I appreciate the applicant's willingness to limit this. I do also share Councilmember Bajent's concern that as conditions change in the future, we've potentially locked this piece of land into little ability to change. I guess I would just put on the record today that significant changes in conditions in the future would certainly warrant consideration of a change in either the development agreement or the zone.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
the council president said it better than I could. I think that, the concern that I had and the reason I asked that question of Mr. Clark was that we'd sure hate to see something change in the self-storage industry in the next 50 years and then end up with, rows of derelict storage units that no longer have a viable business case and the property can't be redeveloped for other use. And of course, there's a procedure coming back to revisit it. That was the concern and the thought that I had in my mind was just preserving that flexibility now rather than putting somebody through a bunch of process in the future. But we've made these comments that are on the record, and I know that Heath keeps immaculate records and files in his office. So I'm sure if this need comes up, we'll have what we need to deal with it then.
All right, it looks like everyone's good. Clerk, will you call the roll?
Thompson,
Yes.
Woodings,
Yes.
Bajent,
Yes.
Clegg,
Yes.
Halliburton,
Yes.
Sanchez.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Before we adjourn, I just want to say, and I should have said it in the moment of silence, that all of us as a community, and there could well be council members that would like to say something as well, have been thinking and praying for the families and loved ones of those who lost their lives last week. And there was a memorial service today. There are people in our community that are aching deeply, and so many members who serve this state and country as Guard members who lost dear friends. And so please know that you are in our hearts and minds, and we are here for you. So thank you. I wish I'd said that at the beginning. I don't know if anybody else would like to say something before we adjourn.
Madam Mayor.
Oh, go ahead, Council President.
Council President, and then yes,
thank you.
Councilmember Halliburton.
I'll be short. I echo what Mayor McLean said. Many of us were allowed to go visit the Guard late last year and take a flight on one of these helicopters and understand just how amazing these folks that work to protect us, to protect our state, to serve our state are. And when I heard about the tragedy last week, I was heartbroken. And as many of us were, and my heart does go out to the family members, but really the community out there, because I also learned how tight knit that community is and how much they care for each other. And I know they're all hurting. So know that we're with you.
Madam Mayor.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor, for giving us this opportunity to say something, and thank you for bringing it up. As Council President Clegg said, earlier or in 2020, we had the opportunity to go and tour the field. And when I went to tour the field, I didn't know that meant hopping in a helicopter and actually going on a real tour of the whole area. And it was just so impressive. the amount of pride that everybody took in their work, and the invitation that they gave to us to take us on such a unique experience, to show the work that they do. One of the officers, Officer Laubin, was one of my close friends, and so I'm certainly been missing him this last week. And when you feel it personally, you know that the same thing is happening for every other family that lost somebody. I know that we have council members who have served. I know that we have staff who've served at the city. I know that we have people who've served all over our community, and how much everybody is hurting right now. But I also know how much it means to the families when people reach out. And so I'd just like to thank everybody who has reached out to the families, to their guardsmen that they know, the people that serve right now, because I think that folks are hurting. So thank you everyone for reaching out for that support.
Madam Mayor.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I think once again, we're reminded just how much our military women and men give by committing to this service. And it's remarkable, and it's heartbreaking when something like this happens, to both the families and all of them that are connected to these three individuals. My heart goes out, and I thank them from the bottom of my heart. And I know our community is hurting, and I appreciate and love all that they have done for this community. Thank you.
Madam Mayor. Thank you. What strikes me about the timing of this accident that took these three community members was they were training to do their job better, to better serve our people. And people do this every day. They practice to be better prepared to take care of us. And that is what I found particularly poignant about the timing of them leaving us. And so, of course, I join my colleagues in expressing my deep sympathy and condolences to the families and the loved ones, like Councilmember Halliburton. I'm so sorry for the loss of your friend, buddy. But perhaps we can take that moment to recognize that we have community members that do that every day, that they not only put their lives in peril to put our lives first, but they do it in the practicing of that they are doing it every day. And so if we could just keep that in our hearts moving forward, and that deep appreciation, that grace that we have that makes us Boiseans, I think that would be a wonderful way to honor them.
All right, well, thank you all very much. Thank you for your service. Families, we are thinking about you, and appreciate the words from those of you this evening. And with that, there's no further business to come before the council.
Move we adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thanks all. Good night.